Tips du jour mailbag question comes to us from Florida. Robert, I realize how important it is to control relative humidity as you build. How important is it to control the relative humidity after the instrument is built? Mark in Florida. Mark, that's a very good question and one that comes up frequently here on the Tips du jour mailbag. It's very important. Now, ideally, you want to have the instrument live in the relative humidity that it was built at. And industry standards are somewhere between 40 and 50%. So if you can keep it in that environment, that's great. However, a lot of times you can't, especially if you're a traveling musician, you're out on the road a lot, you're going to a humid environment, you're going to a dry environment, or perhaps you're performing on a stage with hot lights, or even in an outdoor environment. Now, I was at an event here recently in Colorado with some of the best guitarists in the world, and this question came up. Tommy Emmanuel told a really interesting story about this. Also, John Jorgensen weighed in on it. Let's listen to what they had to say.
So, I don't know how many people live around Colorado in this area. Wow. Okay. So, for those of us who don't, our instruments come here and they change. They change. The action gets lower and they go flat. So, a lot of the time you'll see us tuning and adjusting and things like that. Especially when you first pull them out of the case, because it's so much drier here. The wood is drier. So everything, kind of the bridge goes a little bit lower. It's nothing you can see, but as soon as you play, you can really feel it. And as soon as you shake your tuner, you're like, oh my God. So that's
one year on that stage out there, that second song into the set, the face of my guitar cracked as I was playing, but it was a creaking sound, and it cracked right along with the grain and just opened up while I was playing.
Did it sound better after that, or what?
So Mark, as you can see, sometimes you just do the best you can, especially if you're in an open air environment performing on a stage with hot lights like Tommy and John were doing this past weekend. You just have to hope for the best. Now, here's some symptoms to realize if your guitar is starting to dry out. First of all, as John said, the action will lower or raise, depending if you go to a more humid environment, the action will lower or raise as the relative humidity fluctuates. Secondly, you're going to probably notice some of the fret ends sticking out from the edges of the fretboard as the fretboard shrinks. As it progresses, you'll perhaps notice a little finish movement, some cracks, checks in the finish. If it progresses even farther, then you're looking at checks or cracks in the wood. And in extreme circumstances, you're probably looking at structural issues with braces and things coming loose on the inside of the instrument. Obviously, the technical term for that is bad. You don't want to let it get to that point. Now, there's a lot of products out there on the market for maintaining relative humidity in your case and outside of the case. If you're on a stage, like Tommy and John were this past weekend, sometimes it's hard to control it while you're out there. In that circumstance, in that case, you want to have a good luthier on speed dial. So control the relative humidity, folks, and happy building.